Strategies to attract a dream client. I think it's a good point to jump into today. Strategies to attract a dream client. I think it's a good point to jump into today because
Massive.
it's one of those topics, whenever you're talking about trying to find out who your customer is and who you want to target, it's one of those topics that not only has to come up, but everyone talks about it.
Yeah.
And the thing everyone always starts off with is, right, you must pick a niche. Everyone talks about picking your niche, but you can't just say you're going to work with high ticket coaches like we do. You've got to know the ins and out of that avatar.
Yeah.
Because if you just say, right, okay, I'm going to work with high ticket coaches, it's like, right, okay, then what? Are you just going to start pumping out random content? Doesn't work like that. You've got to go so deep. You've got to know the frustrations. You've got to know what it is that's keeping them awake at night. You've got to know what real problems they're having in order for you to create the content. Because if you don't know their problems, how are you going to communicate with them? Why are they going to buy into what it is that you're talking about?
Yeah. And I think the problems is probably the biggest thing. What we always see, like, how do you, and again, going back to like the people that take formulas and stuff like that, the thing that's going to catch their attention and assert you with the competence and authority to be someone that they should listen to is to articulate their problems. And you can only do that by knowing them like you know the back of your hand. That's the only way to do it. Getting to know them should be your first job, because then everything else should stem from that. The way that you communicate your ads, the way that you design your creatives and your videos, all of that should communicate and stem from knowing your dream client profile.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose when you're creating content from your audience perspective, so your dream client, they need to feel like you're speaking directly to them and you're not just talking to like every single high ticket coach on the planet. If we use high ticket coaches as an example, because that's who we work with, if we're creating content, we need the person on the other side of that phone to be thinking, shit, he's speaking directly to me.
Yeah.
This is the exact problem that I've got and he's got the solution to it.
Yeah, he's inside my brain.
He's inside my head.
Yeah. Not in like a
creepy way.
How's he doing that? Yeah. How's he doing this? But it's more like, yes, and I posted this yesterday, but it's like, it's not so much about this is the reason you should buy my thing. It's about, oh yeah, do you know that thing that you can't quite explain? This is exactly what it is.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, because there's been it's got to be like that light bulb, like, oh my God, that's how I feel. Like, that's how you got to get to the same, like, almost like you're lying them on a psychiatrist settee and getting the words out of them, but you're the one that's saying it to them. Understanding what's going on inside their head, what's keeping them up, what they're Googling at 2:00 in the morning because they can't get to sleep because of it. What is that thing that is driving their everyday behavior? And that's another really good point to touch on, that behavior. I think a lot of people, when they talk about and build, like, getting to know their avatar, there's a lot of different ways to build like an avatar profile. But just having like a demographics, like, my demographic is like, I don't know, like a Stacy that lives in the US, like locations, age, are they married, do they have kids, that kind of thing. This is you need to include the psychographics and their emotional and cognitive states, because that is going to be the thing that you really get to understand them. It's like everybody kind of puts on slightly modified versions of themselves, and then when the doors close, that's when they're the real self, and that's the version of them you need to get to know. The psychographics, which means how they act and think and why, but then also the emotional and cognitive states. There's an amazing, one of my favorite books ever is called Marketing to Mind States by Will Leach. And it's just absolutely phenomenal. The way to think about it is, the way to think about that emotional cognitive state is, there's a film called Inside Out and Inside Out 2. It's basically about this, I think the first one she's preteen, but the second one she's a teenage girl, like 13. And the whole film was about the emotions inside of her head. And there's different characters like joy, anger, fear, embarrassment, envy, all of those things. So the way to think about it is, how do you serve ads to those individual characters inside of somebody's head? Because you can't say the same message to joy and anger. You cannot say the same thing because it won't land the same way. You have to direct and divert your messaging differently, and that's the way to attract ads to attract your dream clients.
Going back to what you were saying about like knowing your avatar, and like a lot of people do this where they'll be like, right, Stacey, 43, she lives in the northeast of England. It's like everyone does that, but then it's like, now what?
Yeah.
Now what do you do?
Yeah,
Like you've built this avatar, but now what? You've got to know, you've got to have those deeper levels. Like we know that our customer has massive problems when it comes to scaling the ads. Not everyone, but a lot of them have massive problems when it comes to scaling the ads. We know that there's potential funnel issues there, that if they're trying all these different funnels and rather than just simplifying an offer. So you've just got to get to those lower and deeper levels to be able to communicate with your avatar through your content.
Yeah. And it's, there's, generally speaking, certain things will get you to certain levels. Like you can repurpose hooks and you can put them on a different design. Like there's all these like different kinds of ads and content that you can do, like before and afters and talking heads and all that kind of stuff. But actually sometimes more than just repurposing a winning hook, you just have to say it in a different emotion. And that is the thing that will make a big difference, because ads scale because of emotions. And I think that's the way to say it. That's the better way to think about it. Designs of ads don't scale. It's human psychology is the real thing that scales.
And I think it's good. It's a good point actually to touch on, because like we use like a lot of different designers and things like that, and we've used people in the past who have been like unbelievable, say, graphic designers for content. But then when it comes to creating ads for, say, like psychology based or trying to get that emotional triggers going, it aesthetically looks fantastic if it was going to be printed on a brochure to be in a magazine somewhere.
Yeah.
But it's different to capture that attention of the audience if that graphic's going on social media.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the place where I've seen it the most before, like the first thing that comes into my head is when small businesses get like and even coaches sometimes, when they get like a website designer and it's just like a design. What they don't realize is that website designers aren't copywriters. So now they'll fork out a load of money for their website and then think it's done. But actually, no, it's not, because the website designers aren't copywriters. So they've either got lorem ipsum pasted all over the place, or they've got unbelievably bad copy in places where there should be good copy. So people land with a funnel or a website that it looks good, but now they're like, I didn't know, I'm going to have to pay a few grand for a good copywriter, then I'll go through it and do it. But that's the requirement.
Yeah. I mean, we're not going to go and call out every job role on the podcast today, right? But another good example of this is like, and I come from a videography background as well, so I feel like I'm allowed to say this as well. But you've got to be relatable to your avatar. So you've got to be relatable to your dream client. And what I mean by that is, if you want to get loads of video content made, right? Yeah, right. Okay, I want to get some videos done. I'm going to get some content. I'm going to get some ads out there. They'll hire a professional videographer. They'll have an awesome setup. And then they'll create like a 60-second or 2-minute promo video where it's all polished and it looks fantastic. And it's like, yeah, that looks great, but it's not relatable to your avatar at all. Yeah. And that's why sometimes people say it's not even the best polished videos that work the best. It can sometimes just be walking down the street with your phone, speaking to a camera, because you're coming across like you're relatable. You connect with your audience in a different way. Yeah. Now, that doesn't mean you shouldn't go and hire a videographer to do the content or anything for you. You just need to plan it out from the beginning, and you need to know what it is that you're talking about. Right, these are the pain points, these are the problems, and these are the solutions that I have. It's not always about that polished content. It's about being relatable in it. Yeah, all the time. Because that approaches it from a different psychological aspect. Yeah. And the high-end promotional style video speaks to a different cognitive and emotional state than a selfie walking, trying to get you 10,000 steps in. Yeah. It's a completely different level. Yeah. And I think it comes back to, for you to be able to do that in the content, and you've got to really know your niche. You've got to know the frustrations. You've got to know the beliefs. You've got to know what your audience want. If you don't know what they want and how they're struggling to get from A to B, you can't make that connection with the content. Yeah. And I think, do you know what's a good way to do it as well, to try to attack it? I think a really good way to look at like a personal goals thing to try to, so like a plan to achieve your personal goals. It'll be like, right, what is the kind of person that achieves the goals that I want to achieve? What do they do on a daily basis? You can write the same thing for your avatar.
what does it mean for that person? What kind of person is going to go through, do the things that we ask them to do, not complain about X, Y, and Z and say that they got caught late, so they're going to start next week and all that. What steps do they perfectly take? And then you can start to see patterns of they probably do that because they are this kind of person and they have this kind of past, and they've got time to do this because of X, Y, and Z. And it starts to really open up different pockets and opportunities to get to know them. Because sometimes you do know them on a deeper level, you just don't realize how deeply you know them because I think sometimes people try too hard to, it seems like they try too hard to framework everything.
Yeah.
And get specific frameworks into play when actually it's probably already inside of your mind because you know your business. Therefore, you usually know your customer. But it's just about trying to pull it out of yourself and out of your brain.
I don't want to turn it into like a whole AI conversation because we went down that route in a previous episode. But you can use AI to help you with this. But I feel like for this sort of stuff, knowing your customer, a lot of it really does need to come from you.
Yeah.
It really needs to come from yourself because if you use AI, it'll be like, right, okay, write me a customer avatar, write me my niche, what problems are they having? You might get some ideas, but it's going to be fairly vague.
Yeah.
A lot of the time, coaches who we work with are coaching people and they've been there themselves. They've stood in the shoes of the customer who they want to work with. Yeah. So you've already got the answers within it. It's just about trying to pull it out of yourself in a way that's going to connect.
Yeah, definitely. 100%. And I think a big part of that is, and I was one of your favorite examples, but talking like them and relating to the material in the way that they're going to understand. You love the Apple.
Yeah,
the Apple example, didn't you?
Yeah, well, Apple's a really good example because it's easier to understand. So when Apple released the first iPod, when was it? Early 2000s? I want to say 2001.
Feels like yesterday. It shows my age.
They didn't, in their marketing campaigns, they didn't talk about how it had 5 gig of data. It's going to last for 100 hours. It's going to have X, Y, and Z. They simply just said, we're going to put 1,000 songs in your pocket because it's simple, it's clean, and it's really easy to understand. If they started rattling off all of the jargon of the detailed kind of specifications of how it's built, people would just switch off. And it's the same with your coaching business as well.
Yeah.
No one wants to know the nitty gritty in terms of like the technical aspect of what you're going to do. They want to know what they're going to get from it. So the same with Apple, getting 1,000 songs in your pocket. What are they going to get from your coaching program? That's what they want to know.
Yeah. And I think all of that boils back to communication, doesn't it? Like, how can you get the light bulb to go off? And I think sometimes this word, like, it scares some people because it seems like a beast. It seems like a massive beast, and it can be, but storytelling is it is marketing. Like, that, in fact, storytelling is human communication. Like, it goes like, cavemen sat around a fire pit, like, when they learned to talk to each other. That's what it began with. That's what community was and is. And in fact, when we talk about Apple and 1,000 songs in your pocket, if I'm not mistaken, that headline was created because Steve Jobs left Apple, right? And then when he went back to Apple, the marketing completely transformed because of his experience at where he worked after he left Apple. Do you know where it was? Do you know where he worked?
I do, but I can't remember the name of it.
It's Pixar, who Disney acquired, who created things like Toy Story and all that kind of stuff. So that whole storytelling is communication, and it doesn't mean that you have to go and learn how to be a writer. It just means that you need to understand how people process information and what emotions and what kind of setup helps people understand and want to follow you and find your solution. Like, there's a basic story arc for almost every good film, and it's and this is from Donald Miller's Story Brand, which is phenomenal. But it's a basic story arc for every film. There's a character with a problem, and now what businesses and a lot of coaches try too hard to do is to make themselves the hero of the story, but actually the customer is the hero. And so if you think of films like Star Wars, Batman, whatever you can think of, right? Star Wars, Luke Skywalker is not you, the business. Luke Skywalker is your customer, and you are the guide that helps him. You are Yoda.
Mm-hmm.
That is the difference. Like in Batman, your customer is Batman. You are Alfred, for example. Like you are the one that guides them to the transformation because they're the hero of the story. It always starts with a character, with a problem, because problems are more relatable and more urgent. I think sometimes people try too hard now as well. I always see there's like everybody tries to start with, if you are suffering from X problem or suffering from X problem, and they start like content and videos and stuff, and I totally understand, like, because it's an easy sort of like mental math to make. But I think especially now, people are conditioned to see that so much, and times are changing. Like you have to earn the right to say that. Mm-hmm. You have to earn the right to be able to say, I've got a solution. And you do that through relating to problems, and then, you know, putting in things like an epiphany bridge. Like it's basically empathy. It's coming back to I could say to you, for example, if you are I'm trying to think of an example now. I can't think of one, but like if you are X and you want Y, then this is the thing for you. So in that first line, you're saying that you've got a solution, but actually, it should be more like, and I actually hate using the word if now. I don't start content with if, but it should be more like, if you are X, I know how you feel. Mm-hmm. This is what happened to me. So instead of saying, if you are X, you need Y, which is going to be your solution, you need to earn the right to say that to somebody. They have to be able to be, the sales barrier has to come down. And you do that by saying, again, don't use if, but if you are X, I know how you feel because I've been there too. Mm-hmm. And this is how I overcame it. And I want to help you with the same thing. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you don't have to say that. You can just say, this is how I overcame it. If you want it, here it is.
Well, the storytelling, I think you mentioned this on one, I don't know if it was a Facebook Live that we were doing or if it was one of the coaching calls that we've been on, and you were talking about the power of storytelling. And I wouldn't class myself, and this is I think how we got in the conversation, I wouldn't class myself as being a good storyteller. It's not something I would associate myself with.
Yeah.
But you said on the call or the live, whatever it was, that everyone tells good stories. They just don't think that they can.
Yeah.
And then you give the example about how whenever I've been out or I've been doing something, or I've been to the match, I'll always come back with a story and I'll be able to say it in like an energetic way. And I didn't associate that with being able to tell stories.
Yeah.
And that's how, and it goes back to the conversation about having conviction in your content. Mm-hmm. If you tell your natural stories and that you've been in that shoe and you've kind of been on the road that they're on, it's going to help.
Yeah.
It's going to help 100%. Connect. It's going to help. Yeah. So, and I think it's about unlocking that, isn't it? Sometimes it's about, you feel like you don't know how to do something until someone kind of just frames it in a different way.
Yeah.
And it's like, do you know what? I can do that.
Yeah, 100%. Aye.
The website, what I wanted to talk about on websites though, and it was talking about being the hero of the story. Mm-hmm. We've audited a lot of different websites for people, mm-hmm. and that the amount of suggestions that we've had to give to coaches based on the fact that when we've audited their website, they've tried to make themselves the hero of the story. So at the top of the website, it's all about them. Yeah. There's no talk about
or funnel as well.
Or the funnel, the website, the funnel. Yes, we talk about the funnel. It's not never, but there's a lot of the time where it's about, I've won this, I've done this, I can help you do that, rather than focusing on the customer problems, the solutions and the pains, the pains and the solutions.
Yeah.
And I think that's, again, it's something that a lot of people easily fall into the trap of doing, because they feel like if people are going to buy my coaching product, I've got to sell myself. But it's not, you've got to sell the solution to the pain that they have.
Yeah. You got to sell, you have to just tell the story. You have to show your authority and competence in being able to convince, not against their will, but convince and persuade them that you have the solution for them, mm-hmm. is rooted in the fact that you've been where they've been. Like, it's rooted in that. Like, you've faced the same problems. You have you've climbed the same mountains. You've came across the same obstacles and roadblocks, whatever you want to call it. But you don't have to sell. Like, selling yourself is not. You just need to really tell the story about how you overcame the same problem as they have, and they'll assume that you instantly, before you even get to the solution, they'll say, oh well, they must have overcame it, and because they
proof
see
element, isn't
themselves,
it?
yeah, a complete proof element. Then what they'll do is they'll see themselves in it, and then they'll say, all right, and they'll continue to see themselves in the solution as well, and it'll be a very vivid. If that person's done it, then I can, because I'm where they were now. I can definitely do the next steps that they can do as well.
Yeah. I think going back to what we were talking about earlier as well, about kind of speaking the language of your dream customer and really speaking their language, you don't always have to come up with these kind of ideas yourself. I know I talked a bit earlier about how like you'll have a lot of the answers within, but if you're struggling to come up with ideas, or you want a kind of more in-depth analysis of what problems customers are having, you can go and look at your competitors' reviews as well. Go and look at your competitors' landing pages. Go and look at the funnels. Go and look at their testimonials. I mean, I don't want to say people have got bad reviews and stuff, but there might be some kicking about, or there might be some language that they've used in the funnel that you can kind of use and talk on your own. There's a lot of hidden gems in there, like especially in reviews. If people have left testimonials and reviews for any of your competitors, you can look at your competitors' ads. You might find a lot of language inside of there that you can use.
Yeah. And I think also, sometimes when in the coaching industry, because a lot of it is based around individual stories, it's easy to think that competition is harder to come by. And it is, because you should be acting in a way that just attracts your people.
Yeah.
Or attracts your tribe, as some people say. But in the same instance, there's people that think about it from a sense that people solve, who else solves similar problems as me, because usually testimonials on landing pages and funnel pages will be around particular problems. They'll say like, oh, this solved X, Y, and Z, and the words that they say and how they use it, they're displaying how they think. And another good way to do it and consider it is, usually there'll be more oftentimes than not, there's going to be an Amazon bestseller around what you do as a coach. Somebody's probably released an Amazon bestseller around the topic or one of the main topics that you talk about. Book reviews on there on Amazon is a great place to have a look. There used to be a Chrome extension where you can say that.
Yeah, there is.
I don't know if it's still. It
definitely will.
There will be somewhere, but find a Chrome extension that we used to do this a lot on ecom. But find a Chrome extension, export the bestseller reviews of the book that relates to the subject that you coach around, and then put them in a spreadsheet. Export them into a spreadsheet. I use a function called the len function, which basically counts the characters in the cell. If you do a filter on that, you can then organize by the number of characters, basically the longest reviews that's going to have the most depth. And then you literally pull out the language that people are using to describe how the problem was solved. And it's great for using in headlines, getting ideas for creatives, and just in general, the emotional language that you use as well.
How would you know? I think it would be good to touch on how you would pull all of this together in terms of creating an ad or writing copy, because I suppose the copy of the ad, like you've got the pain points, you've got the benefits of the solutions that you want to talk about. Yeah. Like you know what you want to give them, but you obviously need to pull them in first. How do you go about putting this into an ad? Because I know that you obviously get involved with a lot of from a video perspective, you'll get involved with a lot of the script writing before it comes to the editing team. How do you pull out all this together to do that?
It starts with the language that they use. So again, it comes to that dream client profile. Making sure that you've got snippets. Oftentimes when I'm building that out, I will just copy and paste into a little Google Docs have got a really good, it seems obvious, but they've got tab features now where we can do different pages and stuff like that. Because you always tell me, I always use the pages format. Yeah, nice. Because I'm not going to print it off, so I don't see the point now.
There's a good point.
I just don't see the point, so I always have like a rolling, like a never-ending sheet. Or a never-ending document.
I still can't get used to that.
But yeah, so I'll copy and paste a bunch of blurbs and headlines and anything that I find, I'll like just paste it into that, and then I'll go through and analyze it from an emotional point of view. And I think it starts for us and our agency customers. It starts from analyzing what they're already doing. From a ads point of view, from a messaging and emotional point of view, and then kind of figuring out what it's worked and why it's worked. And it used to be looking at, all right, why has it worked? Oh, that hook must have worked. Like you're looking at a hook or the topic of a video, and you're like, oh, that video works. Let's just go and record that video in a different location and say the same thing.
Yeah.
But it's not now. It's about analyzing it in what is the emotional state that is being addressed with that ad creative. Once you can identify that, then you can then start to map different ways to say it, and then start to map different emotions that kind of stem away from that.
Yeah. I know a lot of the coaching calls that I've been involved in when I've been reviewing creatives for people, and it's generally when people have kind of are just starting out creating content, a little bit experience, but not so much. And when they're creating the videos, a lot of the time they'll start with, "Hi, I'm Billy, and I help high ticket coaches." And it's about kind of just reframing that. When you mention hooks, you want to your content wants to jump straight into the hook. You want to jump straight in with a problem. And I know it always comes across like harsh when I say this, but in the first instance, when people are first getting to know you online through your content, no one really gives a shit who you are.
Yeah.
All they care about is that you've got the solution to the problems that they're having. So rather than just talking about yourself and introducing yourself, your opening hook, and when I mean opening hook, I'm talking about the first thing you talk about should just be diving straight into a pain point. You can also dive straight into a benefit as well, but I think it's easier to focus on the pains initially until the audience have built up, again, that trust.
Yeah.
The rapport, the relationship with you through the content. Go straight in for the pain points. You definitely don't need to introduce yourself. Now, don't get us wrong. You can say who you are and what you do later down the line. It can even be like in the middle of a video, or it could be like, I don't know, it might be a different level of, I don't want to say like retargeting or anything like that, or it might be on a different place. It might be from social. If you're moving across to your YouTube channel, you can introduce yourself, but there's a place and time to do it.
Yeah.
You don't want to introduce yourself opening on a creative if it's to a cold audience. They've got to kind of know you a little bit and seen your face a few times before you can do that.
Yeah, and again, like suggesting a solution or whatever you've got to offer, you have to earn that right.
You've got to earn it. It's a good way of framing it.
You've got to earn it, and that's why you will often see from our customer landing pages, it'll be add to the landing page. On the landing page is the offer. Then underneath is why you should care, is the intro of the person.
This is who I am.
This is who I am. And basically that intro piece is why you should care. And that is the, because I've been where you've been kind of thing. And I think, again, like going on that, on the pain thing, one thing, and just asking like how we create the ads and stuff like that. One of my main drivers for creating ads is something called the availability heuristic, which is basically a mental shortcut for referring to a relatable scenario. So, for example, instead of starting something with like, I don't know, have you got a cracked tablet screen? Then you should get this tablet, this tablet protector or whatever it is. You should say, it's better to say something like that half a second where your tablet fell to the floor, which seemed like an eternity in slow motion. And then when it hit, and then take them through it vividly, like vividly describe that scenario so that you draw them emotions out of them, and then talk about the solution. Like, you have to earn that right. But if you can explain that to someone in that way and take them there, then they instantly, I don't even want to say associate, they know that you know what you're talking about because you just told them. It's
when you explain that there to me, I'm automatically visioning it already, and that's what you're doing.
Yes, you're putting a vision in your head.
Putting a vision in the head.
It's like it's painting a very vivid picture. It's about creating vivid images in somebody's head, and the more you can control that, not in a negative way, but the more you can control what they see in their mind's eye, then the more you can guide them and draw and relate to the emotions.
Thanks for watching the High Ticket Handbook podcast. If you want to see more content from us, make sure you hit the subscribe button, jump over to Instagram and give us a follow.